Testing 1, 2. Check, 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 check. Hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. It would help to unmute my microphone. All right. So hello to Rube, Hamdi Exile. I'm saying that wrong. Surely, Hamdi Exile. Give me your name in phonetic spelling. And another Michael. What's up? Alright, so I did this last night and it was a lot of fun. I actually enjoyed this myself quite a bit. So, let's see. So, let me get this out of the way. So this is it's an image from Hack/Slash Resurrection, which is the latest and greatest Hack/Slash series. And this was drawn by Tim Seeley, who also created Hack/Slash a million years ago. Not quite a million. It's a long time though. 10 years maybe? Maybe more? Someone Wikipedia that. Anyway, Hack/Slash has been around a long time, and I've colored, this will be the second mini-series that I've colored, and second or third cover I've done, and it's a fun series, and I like it. So I did a lot of basically prep work before getting in here, because no one likes to watch anyone flat anything. Like, that's the boring part. And the deadline's pretty tight, so I had to flat this myself. And so what we have is, we have some flats, and there's some clouds that are actually Tim put in there. These are his clouds. And I messed around with, they're in color burn mode at like a low opacity, I think. Yeah, like 40% or something. They were just black before. And let's see, what else did we do? So it's flatted. Oh, I also did just that, it's just a gradient in the background. I was testing out something and I forgot to undo it before I saved the file. So yeah, it's just like a big orange spot in the back. That's all the coloring, rendering I've done. And then there's just a few, this layer at the bottom is, this layer down here, it's basically just darkening that little section in the right corner, bottom right corner. Kind of got this blue wash over everything in the background. So I'm kind of trying something different. I'm gonna do really two complementary schemes. One in the background, one in the foreground. I saw this done, I think it was Dean White on something. And he's an awesome colorist, one of my favorites. His work on Black Science is like, it's like my favorite art ever. And so I'm going to try that, or try that-ish anyway. It's going to be close to a complementary scheme. This is just kind of a purple wash over the front characters. Cat and the dog here. This is Cat, Curio, and Pooch are their names. And then I just put in some, these are just rendering layers with mask on them. They're not showing anything right now. And I'm sure there'll be more, but for now that's what I'm going to go with. So I usually don't do like color sketches, but I was thinking about, and welcome back guys, Comics and Stuff. That's actually the name of a local shop for me. It used to be Comics and Stuff. They changed it to Bombshell Comics and Stuff. But yeah. And Keeman's back again. Thank you guys for coming. I'll try to remember to look at the chat every few minutes. I think we did okay last night. I do have to work some. And I forgot to put, I'm going to raise up this tablet a little bit. I have a massive Marvel Visual Chronicle. It's like an encyclopedia. Put that under it. I apologize if that was really loud. And my camera's not like perfectly straight, but sorry about that. There we go. So my theory though is I did kind of play around a little bit with these colors before, just splashing some rendering colors on there and then got rid of them. So I'm going to try like a purple and green in the front. It's supposed to be creepy, and I associate like creepiness with creepy greens for some reason. So we're going to light her kind of from the left with some green colors, or kind of left and the top, in the front here. And then in the background, see right now in these flats, I need to draw on this so you guys can see what I'm pointing to. That would help, wouldn't it? All right, so, whoops. Let's get on top of everything. There we go. There we go. You guys see that green? All right, so right now they are a little, lost in this background. So I'm definitely going to be adding some contrast to them. They're not really the focus of the image, but I still want them to be able to pop off that background. So I'm actually going to light, I think I'm going to light the ground like in front of them with like light from the house, like creepy light from the house that isn't really realistic at all, but I think it'll look cool. And I think I've got I might do some glows in the house. I think I kind of like the way it looks with it being bright. It might not be that way in the book, but it'll look cool on the cover. We're going to try it anyway. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. And there's a live chat. Feel free to ask questions and make comments and whatever else you guys want to do. So I like to start with backgrounds first because I got a little mistake here. Because it, I don't know why. I guess because I think backgrounds can be more boring. And let's see. This is the only problem with having this many layers is I've got, yeah, somehow this is not the right color. Okay, so let's change that. Whoops. Let's get under there. There we go. All right. Turn all this stuff back on. There needs to be like, maybe there's a shortcut for it, but there needs to be like a turn all off and turn all on shortcut, something like that. Can you show how it looks without the purple again? Yep. So without the purple and that blue wash, like these are just local colors. Or what I would call, it's like the color that things are. And I see that I accidentally drew on this here. Let's get rid of that line there. I guess I thought I wasn't drawing and actually was. There we go. But yeah, this is just everything as it would be if it were just lit by a white light and there was no color affecting it all. And that's kind of our starting point. And then everything else is to help kind of frame this. So like that dark blue in the front, we're going to leave that there because again, it's not really that important. We just kind of want you to look past it, so it's kind of dark. And then this blue is just kind of it's just a color mode layer at about 50%. The shadows are actually in normal mode because I just want it to be more purple than the blue was blue. So that's just normal mode at about, I don't know, 60 or so. There's no numbers on here. It doesn't really matter. And then all everything else in there yet. So I usually don't start with this many layers, but I labeled these this time so you guys can kind of keep track. And there's a bunch of selections in here that I really only started doing for Procreate just because it does a the way that it makes selections, I think this is faster. So on each of these layers, it's just like I can, like cat's clothes, for example. I can click that layer and hit select, and it will just select her clothing. So then I can draw on the clothing. And that's everything on this she's wearing. That's her socks and her shoes and all that stuff, because I don't need it all separated. So so that's why I have all those. Some uh, big selections. Like I've got, like, now I'm gonna do the ground first, I think. So I'm just gonna hit the ground, and it's actually gonna select all of the ground area, like the road and the grass and all that stuff. And all right, let's see. So I'm just gonna get a soft brush and make it pretty big. And just gonna start laying this in for the ground. And it's a pretty low opacity because I want to be able to, like, kind of build this up. And you know, immediately they stand out against that background a lot more. Yeah, I think this is going to be cool when we're done. So on the house, I think I have all the house just on. I think I have a selection for that too. Select the house. So this is just early building blocks. I think one of the things that's kind of a struggle for beginner colorist is that idea that every color you put down is going to stay there. So I just realized some of these windows are not the right color, so bear with me just a second. Whoops, wrong layer. There we go. I didn't want that blue wash over the lights from that, so I was just painting that out. Alright, so back to my house selection. I'm going to grab that same color. It's kind of a yellowish green color. Again, big soft brush. And I'm just going to throw some little highlights around the house, keeping it simple. And then we'll come in and we'll do some tighter stuff. So this is just a, what do you call it? It's a default brush that comes with Procreate. It's called Flat Marker. And you'll notice that there is a crap ton of brushes in Procreate, okay? Too many for me to jump around getting all the ones that I want. So I made a new brush set. You can do that by just pulling down here at the top, which is not obvious, but it says new set. I just renamed it KMR, and then I put all my favorite brushes there. So I don't have to go dig through, you know, a ton of brushes. Alrighty. So this house is way in, like, the far background, so it's not gonna, I'm not gonna put a whole lot of time in it because it doesn't need to be, you know, it doesn't need to be super detailed. I'm just kind of knocking this brush around in these leaves here and just kind of trying to stay on the top where there's no shadows. Something I learned watching, you guys would know his posters if you don't know his name, but Drew Struzan, Struzan. He's like the old school famous poster guy. Like, if you remember the original Star Wars posters and Indiana Jones, and he even did newer stuff like Hellboy, and you know, he got a DVD. I think it's a DVD that where he talks about. It doesn't talk about it. It walks him through the process of doing a painting, and it's awesome. Like, even though I don't really paint traditionally, I still thought it was really, really cool. and I learned a lot. I learned stuff I didn't know, and not all of it, of course, can you apply to coloring, but some of it you can maybe. But one of the things he talks about was how, like, what he does, he takes a toothbrush, and then you know how when you like brush the toothbrush like that, it kind of slings particles everywhere, and he did that with black paint or ink or something all over the image. So it had this like spray of just little details. It looks like little dots, but when you do it all over the place, it creates this really cool texture. And in the places where, in the places all over this painting where this texture was, when he started painting over it, it looked like he was doing more than he was really doing. It was like your mind sees all this detail and go, "Oh my God, this must have taken forever to paint." And it really wasn't that. It was just he had a lot of texture in it. Now it's easy to overdo texture in comics. Really easy to overdo texture in comics. So, don't go crazy with it. But but that was something I learned from him, and so it's not really the same thing here. But just those little dots in the trees, like you think, man, he spent all that time coloring those bushes, and it really didn't take that long. Another Procreate tip here: if you ever accidentally undo your selection, I mean, you can undo it with the two-finger click, or you can just hold down the selection button and it'll bring it back, which is kind of cool. Procreate does a lot of stuff that's kind of like buried. You have to go look it up. So, let's see, what do I want here? I think I'm going to group all of this stuff because I don't really switch that often. That way I'll rename this so you guys know what it is. Rendering. There we go. Alright, so... And sometimes I'll just go to the base color layer and just make it a little bit darker. Because I got all these layers on top, that are affecting it. So even when I color with like this really gray color, it's actually adding a little bit of blue to it. And again, I'm just putting enough in here to like give it a little bit of interest, and so it's not just a flat color or just a gradient. There's not really a hard sunlight or anything, so I don't really want like super hard shadows. It's just, if you think about it, this building has, it looks old and decrepit, so there's probably like boards that aren't quite even, so some of these things are, catching a little bit of light. And so if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? So you have boards that are throwing shadows. And again, we'll put a lot more detail when we get to the back for the foreground, but we're gonna stick with this for now. I actually don't like this bright yellow. Really no reason for it. Not at that angle anyway. You guys are quiet tonight, or the chat's dead, or the stream broke or something. Or you're all lurkers. That's fine, you can lurk. I'm gonna do the same thing in the grass. And I'm going to turn this opacity way down because I don't want this to be really strong at all. Oh, I haven't selected the grass. It would help to select the grass. Whoops. Let me get on the right tool. There we go. Boy, I'm struggling right now. I've been in Photoshop most of the day. Not most of the day. The last hour or two flatting this file because it was kind of on it's a tight deadline. Again, not spending tons and tons of time on these parts because they're really small and not that important. Alright, so this thing over here is kind of like drawing too much attention to me. And I need to tell my wife to turn the heat down. It is 1,000 degrees in here. 1 second. I'll be right back. All right. Boards that are throwing shade. Oh, yeah, that's like a term the kids use these days, isn't it? Alright, so this is just on the base layer of color. Big brush. Low opacity. Alright, so sorry, just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing here. There we go. That's what I was trying to get to do here. I'm just trying to get this to blend a little bit better with this grass. Better? Yes, I found you. I don't know how you... Gordon. I'm not even going to try that first name unless the... What's the... How do you say the first name? Or is that just a code name? I don't know. Yeah, you can call me Kurt. You can call me Michael. Either way. Alright. Just painting out these little areas where they're standing, like they're kind of like a cast shadow. It's just subtle, but it looks cool. You'll notice that a lot of times, and this is a good, there's another pro tip for you guys. I think the pro tip things are kind of pretentious, so I'm doing it ironically. But yeah, you'll see me do this every now and then, like just zoom way out, and you're thinking, what is he doing? He can't paint at that size, and I can't. But I want this to read, you know, on a bookshelf at 10 feet away. And if you can't tell there's at least two people standing there, then I've done something wrong. So and in comics, even within panels, I want you to be able to quickly look where I want you to look. So when you zoom way out like that, it's like stepping away from the canvas, and then seeing if it still reads. Because if your page doesn't read at arm's length, like if you have to like hold it right in front of you to even see what's going on, then if you can't at least tell foreground from background, you're probably doing something wrong. It's pronounced Arnie. Well, there you go. Hello, Arnie. Hello from Russia. Hello. I can't pronounce any of the characters in your name either. Alright, so the background's getting pretty close to where I want it. I don't know exactly how I want to light Cassie and Vlad just yet, so we're going to come back to that. And so, in case you missed it earlier, we got this creepy Scooby-Doo looking house back here, and I want to do like a, like that Nightmare Before Christmas greenish color that you see in all those movies. That's what I want as my lighting over here on this side for my foreground characters. And I even named them for you. Foreground Creepy Light. And there's like a mid-tone too. But I don't know. Let's see which one of these I like better. And then this one is really bright. Alright, so I'm going to start with this kind of mid-tone. And let's see. We'll start with the clothing this time. Let's see. Nope, I don't want to rename. I want to select. There we go. So I've selected all of the clothing, and I'm going to have this light coming from the left, and there's really no explanation for it other than it looks cool. So don't try to like read into why it's there or anything. I just want a strong light source that's with a lot of contrast. And if I can ever remember to get on the right layer. If you're not familiar with painting on mask at all, there's a video on the channel. I called it I think it's called a very different coloring method, because at the time for me it was very, very different. It's not uncommon. I'll say that, but you're basically painting with white and erasing with black. Now I don't want to get into like super duper details on this yet, so I'm just going to lay in some really soft lights coming here from the left, and then we'll come back and tighten this up. Or I will come back and tighten this up. Why do artists say that? I've noticed, I just said it, I noticed a lot of YouTubers, they'll be like, yeah, so now we're going to do this. And we're like, you're not doing anything. You're just watching. Which I appreciate. But yeah, I guess it's kind of like those guys that like, really like football teams. They're like, dude, we won this weekend. You're like, you didn't win. You were sitting in your recliner watching the game. So I mentioned this last night, but one of the weird things about the mask in Procreate is that they're you don't pick your colors with black and white in Procreate. So like if you pick a color while you're on a mask, it'll pick the underlying color instead. Like if I'm on the mask right now, but if I color pick the sky, did they update this? Holy smokes, they updated it. Who makes Procreate? Savage? Is that the name of the company? I think so. I love you, Savage. I submitted that bug early on. This must be really, really fresh update, because it wasn't doing this last night. Maybe I had an update today and didn't know it. Is it really working? Am I missing something? I'm on a layer. Yeah, see, so even though I'm color picking that orange, it's still staying white. Huh. So now if I actually need white, I have to go select it. So I'll take it. Usually pages have borders and I can easily grab white, but not an option on this one. Okay, I've been ignoring the chat. Let's see. How do you check the values? Let's see. You're so good at coloring, LOL. You've taught me so much with your vids. Yeah, I know I've seen that name. I know your name. I don't know why I know your name. Usually that's either good or bad. No, I think it's good. Yeah, I said this last night, but someone compared me to. They said he's Bob Ross for Photoshop, and that is high praise for me, because I love me some Bob Ross. I actually grew up watching him, not like you kids watching him on Twitch or whatever. No, you guys watch him wherever you want. That is fine with me. You know what? It's still not. You know what it's doing? I just realized why it's not doing what I expect it to do. It's picking the value. So if I pick a place where I haven't painted on the mask, it should go to black, and it's not. It only goes to black if I choose black. Okay, they're getting warmer. Okay. I take it back. I got a little excited there for a second. Savage is on the right track here, but anyway, it's a lot better than it was, I'll say that. All right, let's see. Oops, the brush is too big. So again, don't worry too much about getting the exact color right the first time. If kind of work at, building things up and seeing what works and what doesn't, and if you get stuck, you can always undo it. And this is not going to be the brightest highlight. It's just kind of the mid-tone. How do you check the values? I forgot to answer that question. If I wanted to, I could make a new layer, put it on top of everything, fill it with black. Let me uncheck that. Fill it with black. And then set the mode to color. And I get the black and white version of the page, basically. So, like right now, and I kind of thought this a second ago too, but right now that color I'm using for the mid-tone is really close to the purple. So I kind of want to make that a little bit brighter. But it's so different from the purple that I think I'm going to leave it alone for now. That works. Almost all of this stuff works in Photoshop too. So I always forget to switch back to my layer. Alright, so have I done all of her accessories here? And I apologize, I mentioned this last night too, but if you guys hear a knocking noise or a squeaking or something, I've got some braces right now attached to the desk that are supporting my arms because I've got a pretty jacked up shoulder situation. I've got multiple tendon tears, and it's a long story, but yeah. So it kind of hurts if I don't have these right now. So that's if you guys hear a squeaking or a knocking or something. Oh, you guys want me to talk like Bob Ross? We're just gonna paint a happy little tree. Alright, so we're pretty good with her clothes. Let's go ahead and get the hair and the skin and all that. I think I put her hair and her skin on the same layer, but that's on the same selection, so that's fine. Alrighty. We get on the right layer. So first I'm just thinking like, you know, in a broad way, we're going to have green on this side. A little bit of reflection up here at the top. And then we can get in here a smaller version of that same brush and get a little bit tighter line, more opacity, or less opacity, I guess, technically. And when I come in with the really bright highlights in a little while, like I'll do like I'm going to do more here, but for now we're going to stick it with this. Let's see, do you have any manga artists you look up to in terms of color? I tend to see in manga, the colors don't nearly match the skill level in comics. I don't really read, I don't read manga regularly. Like I do like a lot of digital artists on the internet, that do like manga or like anime style, or I'm not even sure the terms on that, how that works, but yeah, I don't know that I'm influenced that heavily by it, but I'm a fan. Why does this remind you of Scooby-Doo? Probably because it's a couple of people, and there is a dog-like creature, and there's a creepy house. And this girl's got glasses. Maybe. I don't know. There's that girl on Scooby-Doo that has glasses, so maybe that's it. Don't know. Alright, so I'm going to switch up the brush for the face because I don't really want a lot of texture on the face. And I don't want to overlap anything else on this. I'm going to go back to my flats and just select the skin. I really wish Procreate had a like contiguous option or whatever they call it that would select all that at the same time, but it doesn't. Alrighty, so let's see. So I'm going to kind of brush this in broadly, and then I'll come back and clean it up. And especially with female faces, I tend to leave them very, very smooth. With guys, you can go crazy with like angles and different stuff, and it doesn't really matter that much. But for women, they're usually depicted as having you know, softer faces. I feel like this is I'm accidentally. This reminds me a lot of a Tamara Bond villain palette for some reason. So I'm not trying to steal anybody's palette, but it does kind of remind me of her work. Something about the mix of colors here reminds me of that. Let's see. Are you planning to stream again anytime this week? Probably not. I usually don't stream this often, but the question is, do you find it hard to concentrate on coloring when streaming? No, I do the same thing I always do. I mean, so I guess not. I try to keep people interested and not just sit here, you know. And this is where it helps to know anatomy, even as a colorist. You don't get to get away with not knowing anatomy. There's kind of a muscle there that would catch more light than the rest. So basically what I'm doing is I'm painting in broadly and then selecting black to kind of get rid of parts of it, to harden up some of the edges. Excuse me. Hello to everybody. I was calling out all these names earlier, but there's too many names in here now. Colornami, Randall, Riverdoll, T Phantom 23. Do the artists give you splash seeds for color, or do they just let you do your thing? No, like this is pretty much, you know, Tim let me do whatever I want for the most part. I mean, he did send some reference over to for these two characters, just for the outfit and stuff. I actually, her dress is red. I might maybe have a little too much purple in this dress, so let's do this. Let's darken that some. I might have to change this. Yeah, I may have to just paint out some of that purple that I have on there. I've got this purple on top of everything. Let's see, let's undo all of that. I think it reads okay. I just wanna take out some of that purple. So I'm gonna go to the mask for that layer. And big brush, very low opacity, because I don't want to like completely kill it. And then just very lightly press on this. And bring some of that red out. There we go. Better. This is Procreate. Bracken says, yay, first stream of 2018. This is actually the second. Well, maybe your first stream. I did one last night too. But yeah. Happy little fuzz brush, yeah. Alright, so let's move on to Pooch, who's a very attractive dog creature. Don't tell Tim. I don't know what he is. I read the book series so long ago. I don't remember where he came from. There are monsters in this world, so I'm sure he's a monster of some kind. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with him, actually. I'm going to take a little bit of this purple out, but not a lot. If you've just joined, there's like some really low opacity purple, but he's actually kind of pinkish. So yeah, just enough to take some of that purple away. And let's go back to our color here. Actually, let's select him again. And then go back to that layer. And same as before, just gonna start roughing in some stuff, and we'll clean it up. And I'm gonna have some light from the right too, so these shadows kind of make sense. And if you're new to this channel, or if you're new to watching me, then I got about 150 something tutorials on YouTube. There's all different types. There's some that are streams. There's some where it's real time. There's some where it's time lapse. You know, there's something for whatever you like to watch. There's probably a type of video on it. Something I learned a long time ago is people, learn different ways. Some people prefer to, watch time lapse. Some people like to watch real time stuff. I try to talk over most of what I'm doing, so that if it's not obvious. Looks like Scooby-Doo drank a bowl of acid. Yeah, probably. This is Procreate, if I didn't answer that question. I can't remember. This is Procreate on the iPad. And it's an iPad Pro 2017. Yeah, if you missed this at the beginning, uh, I normally don't work on this many layers, but the way that Procreate does selections and does light, I've started using more. Um, there is a really good, well, I say good. It's good if you can follow it. But today on Twitter, it was like a who's who, basically, of colorists. Got into this massive discussion about Photoshop layering techniques and what they prefer and what they like to use. And the one thing that anyone will probably learn from that is that there are a jillion ways to do this. So if you're a rank beginner, I would you could probably see it, see the replies on my Twitter. You could probably find it. Um, but man, like, it's crazy the different. I mean, there's some guys that work on 4 layers, like, total, and there's others that, they'll spend, have action set up for 50 layers. So Procreate will actually tell you I've used 29 layers and I can use a maximum of 42. That's a ton of layers for me. Like I said, and if all else fails, I can always just merge a bunch of layers, like all those selection layers I'm not really using. So yeah. And this color here, the layer is in hard light mode. If that wasn't clear. It's hard to, I'm probably opening and closing the layer window so fast you can't tell. So it's like a really saturated, or the green is like that color or something, So he doesn't have hair, he's just like skin, and so he looks, I think he looks creepier when he sort of looks wet almost. So I'm going to start, and I labeled the layers. Foreground creepy light. So this one's brighter. So, and I'm actually going to switch to the pencil tool, or it's not a pencil tool, it's a brush that kind of looks like a pencil. And I'm probably going to end up toning this down a lot. I can always adjust it later. But for now, I'm just really just hitting the hottest spots that are facing that direction. And again, always be thinking in 3D here. I talked a little bit about that last night. When you're thinking about light sources, you have to think about them from 3 dimensions, not just 2. You can't just say the light's from the left. The lights could be, if the lighting is a cone, it could be straight from the left. It could be like behind them from the left, like think of it as a cone-shaped arrow, or it could be more in front of them from the left. And so I'm always thinking about, and this one's kind of probably about this angle. So I'm at, like, if I'm holding this camera, let's say that light source is a camera, then what surfaces are directly facing me? Okay. So in this case, it's going to be all of these areas that I'm hitting with these little hot spots here. So that's what I'm thinking as I'm working anyway. And these sections here, these are important because this is where his his face and his upper body is. And So this is going to be, what's facing us, so it's going to catch the most light. And you won't see this much detail when we get to the other places on his body because it's not quite as important. And all these little hot spots kind of help you to helps you to draw the reader's attention to. And like I said, he has no skin. If you're just joining us and people are like, why is this dog so shiny? Like, I mean, he has no hair is what I meant to say. So yeah, there you go. And a little spot on his eyes. Actually, it looks like he's looking down now. I don't know if I like that or not. We'll come back to his eyes. Yeah, this is the person that only uses Photoshop. I only use Photoshop for the first 13 years. Then I discovered Procreate on the iPad Pro. Well, I didn't discover it. I had a friend of mine, another colorist named John Rock. I don't know how you say his last name. He told me about it. And I've been playing around with Clip Studio and Procreate, but I started on Procreate, and I like it a lot better. Clip Studio feels more like Photoshop, and this feels more like, the interface is so simple. It just feels more like drawing on paper to me, So, I don't know, I like it better. And the pencil tool, the Apple Pencil itself, this is just an Apple Pencil. It's got an orange grip on it. I caught it in both cameras. Look at that. And that's just because of my shoulder problem. I'm having some grip issues, so it helps me it's more comfortable for a longer period of time. Yep. So, but it's just a regular Apple Pencil. It's so much more sensitive, like, to me. It's way more precise. And, I don't know. I just feel like I can do a lot with it. Like, I mean, right now, like, I'm not even worrying about picking like, going into that layer and choosing the flats and all that. Like, it's not, I don't always feel like it's required just because I just feel like it's doing I don't feel like I need the boundaries, you know what I mean? Like when I'm in Photoshop, I feel like I need it. Let's see. Dumb question. Are you doing professional work with Procreate, and is there a difference from PS? This is an Image Comics comic. That should answer your question about the professional part. But yeah, no, I've colored most of the last, I don't know, 3-4 issues of books I've done in Procreate. I do a lot of my file setup in Photoshop just because I have I have so many actions that help set up the pages and different things, so it's just way faster in Photoshop to set the pages up initially. And I realize I'm fortunate, like not everyone is able to have like 2 devices or whatever, and I get that, but I've been there. But for me, I just feel like I'm getting I'm not thinking about the UI as much, and the UI is just the way that's the way the menus, actually buttons and things are set up, are so much simpler here. And another thing to always be thinking about when you're coloring is surfaces. The the surface of her skin is going to be different from the surface of her clothing, and eventually I'll do some different things and you'll see that. But yeah, it's there's not a right way. My tutorials are primarily in Photoshop on YouTube, and I've started mixing it up and doing them in both. But honestly, a lot of the same principles as far as the techniques themselves. It's all the same stuff for the most part. I'm not doing much different than what I was doing in Photoshop. It's just, to me, the drawing experience is better, for me at least. Take some of the shadow out. There's too much green in there. But like right there, like in Photoshop, or I would have, or in with my Wacom, I probably would have had to deselect that scarf thing she's wearing in order to do that. But I don't really feel like I need to here. Alright, so this part's getting pretty close to being done. Chris says, I just got my iPad Pro thanks to videos from you and Mike Henry. It's the first time in a long time I've had fun drawing, so thank you. That's exactly what happened to me. Like, I drew more than I have in like years as soon as I got it, because it's just yeah, it's just fun. If Photoshop was released for the iPad, would you use it? Probably not if it's just Photoshop on the iPad. I probably wouldn't. I mean, they're better at different things, but as far as like the drawing process itself, I just don't have a need for Photoshop for rendering. It's more going on than I need, and maybe I wouldn't need it, or maybe if the drawing experience was the same, like exactly the same, maybe. I don't know. That's a tough question. I don't think they ever will. But I don't know. I just like the simplicity of it. I think it's less the software than it is just the feel of the pen or the pencil, whatever you want to call it, the stylus. Um, the That what sold me worse more than anything. I mean, it's 120 hertz, so it's 120 frames per second, so it's just crazy smooth. I mean, this, you guys can't see this because it's only playing at 30 frames a second, but I'm seeing 4 times more frames than you are on the stream. It's just crazy smooth. So the pen just feels better, and that's something that it's hard to quantify, because if you look at the numbers, and I talked about this in a video, some of you guys are probably sick of hearing this, but if you look at the numbers, like the Wacom numbers are higher, 8,000 levels or whatever. I'm just not seeing that. And I went from an Intuos 2 to Intuos Pro, whatever, 5, 6, whatever it was, to a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. Like, I sold the Wacom and could have bought 2 of these. and it's completely replaced it for me. So, sorry, I'm terrible at like talking and painting at the same time when I'm really thinking about what I'm trying to say. All right, so this is getting pretty close as far as this light from this angle. I'm going to do a little bit on this bush back here, but not a lot. Just kind of throw some light around so that it kind of looks like something is going on back here. But I'm making sure it's not quite as bright as the lights on her, and I'm keeping it a little bit simpler. And you'll notice I'm not coloring like each leaf exactly the same, because if I did, it wouldn't look right. You know, always think about that. You know, light's going to reflect off different leaves different ways and all that stuff. All right, so let's leave them for a while. Yeah, the Intuos were graphics tablets without displays, but the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro like has a display, and I don't know, I was never really happy with that tablet. I started off pretty happy with it, but I used it less and less the more that I had it. Okay, so now obviously they're not going to be as detailed. I'm probably just going to do like a rim light from the house on these two characters. And then just like a very subtle like environment light around them or whatever. And I'll probably end up coming back to her. I try to keep the same level of detail across the whole thing at the same time, so I'm not like getting too caught up in details in one place. So I kind of want to bring these two up to the same place that she is. So just going to select her. And let's see. Let's see, what do I want to do here? Let's see what this house light looks like first. It might not be bright enough. No, it's not really bright enough. Alright, so let's make a new layer. And this is going to be like, maybe kind of like that color. Alright, so I'm going to deselect everything. Now, this is how mask works. So I'm gonna click this layer, and I'm gonna click the mask. And I've got this white box here. Now, what's gonna happen is everywhere the white in that box is, the color is gonna show up. Now, if I choose black and start painting, it's painting the yellow away, and the rest of it's coming through. Okay. So that's why they call it masking. It's like masking tape, you know. So yeah, this you guys have seen those jokes on the internet where it's like, watch me paint the Mona Lisa, guys. Watch how awesome I am. Ooh, and they do that with white, and then it's done, and it's funny. Yeah, it's not that funny, but all right. So mask, fill it with black. I don't want it anywhere right now. And let's select Cassie again. And marker brush. And I forgot to switch layers, which I have a tendency to do. There we go. Bright light. Like, is it realistic that this light's this bright on her? Probably not, but that's not what we're going for. We got to make her stand out a little bit more. Rim lights are a nice, easy cheat to do that. And I color pick the black from her boot and paint that heel away that I accidentally painted on. I'm so happy that Savage has done something about the way you color pick and mask. I guess we could say that that light is like coming from the sky. I don't know if I'm crazy about the color. Let's see. We can always adjust the color. That blue is pretty cool. Yeah, I think I like the yellow, like it's closer to the yellow in the house. But it's a little much on her boots and all that, so I'm gonna cut this back some. Wait, let me make sure yeah, I'm definitely on the wrong layer. Hold on, there we go. Might leave it on that boot, but delete it from this one. There we go, better. Let's see. Nice artwork, by the way. Thank you. Does the iPad screen match the printed page better? It's about the same. There's no calibration or anything really required. It was out of the box. It was really close to what I was doing in Photoshop. And I'll always put it back into Photoshop when I'm done just to check it and make sure there's... I might do some tweaks or adjustments or something, but it's usually more general, broad stuff. I feel so dumb not asking what program. Dude, I don't care. It's fine. It's no big deal. Have you talked about how you got into the industry in any of your videos? A long time ago, I think I did. Maybe 3 years ago. So, funny thing is, it involves the artist of this piece. So, way back in 2014. One of these days, I'm going to remember to switch layers. Way back in like 2014, I was a wee little colorist that had not really worked on anything of any significance. I did a couple of shorts. I'll have to take that back. When I say significance, I mean like through a major publisher significant. They were significant to the, to the companies that were making them. And I put everything I could into them, of course. But as far as like, coloring things that from people that you've heard of, there wasn't, or from publishers you've heard of, there wasn't any of that. So, and let's see, what happened first? I think the first thing was there was a buddy of mine that I had done some pitches with, and neither one of us were making a whole bunch of money or anything, but we were having fun. And so he had gotten recommended, or he was actually drawing covers on this book. And he needed a colorist, and so I did a few covers for him. This was Jonathan Brandon Sawyer, and it was for Black Mask. And they were doing some really cool stuff, and they still are. And so I'd done some work with him. Well, he was, getting some work, and he was like, well, my buddy colors too. Do you have anything for him? And they had a 4-page short, four whole pages. and it was going in the back one of their graphic novels for Critical Hit, I think is the name of the book. It used to be called Liberator. Tim Seeley, who's the artist on this and the creator of Hack Slash, was actually the writer and the artist on these 4 shorts, or 4 pages. Now, at this point, I had only colored 1 full issue of anything, I think, maybe 2. So I didn't have a ton of experience. I had a lot of pitches, a lot of like 4 and 6 page pitches and shorts and anthologies and that kind of stuff. But the biggest projects I had at that point was like an unpaid 30-page book that I like, never even came out. I won't tell you who the publisher was. But so anyway, sorry again about the talking and the not painting. But so anyway, he was the artist on that book and the writer, and I did the work with him on that. And that was fun. And immediately nothing really came of it or anything. And then a few weeks later, it wasn't very far at all. It wasn't very long at all. There was a Facebook group that I was in. It was a lot of like small press and indie people, and they were looking for a colorist. Or no, he told me there was Rachel Deering was looking for a colorist. She's an excellent writer and editor, and she was doing a horror anthology called In the Dark that was nominated for Eisner, I think, an Eisner and a Harvey, I think, which are like the Emmys and the Oscars or whatever of comics, I think. And she's like, I've got this 8-page short. Can you want to color it? Because my buddy had said she was looking for a colorist, so I sent her some stuff. She's like, all right, cool. I had a little bit of my portfolio at the time. So I get this 8-page project. I'm like, by the way, who's writing and drawing this? And they said, well, the writer is Tim Seeley. And I laughed because it was just completely random that he happened to be writing that also. And the artist was crap. I can't think of his name. He's from Georgia. He's gonna kill me if he's watching. Anyway, so we did this little 8-page short, and I guess Tim liked it because about a month later, he said, one of his editors actually emailed me and said, how long does it take you to color a book? Like, or can you color a book in 2 weeks? I think a week and a half or 2 weeks or something. And I'm thinking to myself at the time, I'm like, that sounds fast. I don't know. But to him, I'm like, yes, of course, I'll figure it out. Like, I just irrational confidence for no reason. That's me. So, like, sure, yeah, I can do that. So that was Hack Slash Son of Samhain, like 5-issue Image Comics miniseries. I joke that I failed to mention to Tim and the team that I had only colored like 1 or 2 books at that point, and as long as the work was good, they didn't seem to mind. So I did that series, and that was a big part of what kind of got me to getting more work on a regular basis. So now I've worked for Tim a couple times, and sorry, I'm gonna try to draw now some more, but yeah, that's kind of how it got going. And then after the first one, and if you get you get your name in like an image title, then you can, now you've got that in your portfolio. It'll be like, well, I did this. People have heard of Hack Slash, like, so just started throwing that around the portfolio. And looking back, like, I've done critiques on myself on YouTube of those pages because there's a lot of stuff I would have done differently now. But anyway, thank you guys for stopping by. Mike Opinion, you said the sky is awesome. I didn't do anything in the sky except put that gradient on it. The sky was already in the ink, so he had done some washes. So they're on a separate layer. So I just changed the opacity of that and made them a different color. That's it. But yeah, the sky is cool. So yeah, that's kind of the story. It took about, I mean, I mean, I've never done a Marvel book. I've done one DC cover. It was actually a DC slash IDW cover. So there's always like there's different levels of breaking in. You know what I mean? Like they're like people that think like, oh, you're in. You know, the work just comes flying at you. It doesn't really work that way. Like you still have to stay in after you get the first one. You know. So anyway, let's get back to some coloring here. So if you guys have more questions about that, I'll be happy to answer. So let's start with Vlad again, and I'm just gonna do some really subtle lighting on him. I can just do this on. Do I want to do that on the colors? No, let's keep up. Let's do it on the layer. Might as well. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter than his clothing, but not a lot. Just shift it a tad toward green, which is kind of the environment color. And opacity is too high, so we're going to turn that way down. And this is going to be really light at first, like you'll barely be able to even see what I'm doing probably. But this is just sort of like the light from the environment. You know, it's not like a strong light source. You know, it's just kind of generally in the air, if that makes sense. Oh, I forgot to do the mask thing. Crap, hold on. Let's go back. I forgot to mask the layer. There we go. So what I want to do is new layer about that color. Actually, let's deselect him. So basically every color gets a layer this way. Oh, you can also invert the mask instead of filling it with black. I forgot you could do that. So either way works. Alright, now let's go back to this. There we go. And again, this is way off in the distance, so it doesn't have to be like as detailed as what we're doing up front. I just kind of want to get a hint that there's some light back here. And then I can always bump up the opacity, a little bit smaller brush, and go in here a little bit more. And I'll make these highlights a little bit more detailed. Alright, let's see. Can you do reviews of books? Probably not. Like, I have so little... I try to cram in as many videos as I can just to do what I'm doing. So I'm probably not going to be branching out into book reviews. Not like videos for books. I mean... let's see. Yep, someone knows that's Vlad. Tim. Totally have a book coming out this year. Being published on a friend's self-publishing company sort of deal. You dudes on YouTube keep us going. Well, that's nice. Thank you. Oh yeah, maybe some happy highlight lives here. You guys are still wanting Bob Ross quotes. Just beat the devil out of it. Yep. Alrighty. I don't like these little splotches that I put in here at all. So we're going to paint them out. Or just take them down some. There we go. Simplify that a bit. Alright, same thing on her. you know what, this is in normal mode. I wonder what that looks like in hard light mode. Better. I was wondering, I thought that looked funny. I wanted it to be a little bit bluer anyway. And this light on her skin is now actually lighter. Alright, let's see. It's been a long time coming between your streams. Yeah. Most of the stuff I can't show. So I can't show it live. I actually had to ask Tim. I'm like, hey dude, can I stream this one again? Sure. So most of the stuff I'm working on, it doesn't come out for like weeks or months. So I just record them, and then it might be 2 or 3 months before I'll upload them and get the title and all. I'll put all this crap on YouTube, and then just set it to private. And then as soon as I can show it, if it if it gets solicited or whatever, and it shows it's in the public realm, then I can just put it out then. How many pieces should you keep in a portfolio? I would say no more than like 8 or 10, maybe 12, but I would say like 8 or 10's the average. Never thought of that. Oh, about the YouTube videos? Yeah, I do that a lot. Okay. So I'm going to do some glows in these windows. This is a screen mode layer filled with black, and I'm using a hard light brush. Just kind of jumping around all the places I'm going to have glows. Very, very subtle glow on. I thought about doing like a actual like little spotlight thing, but I want to get rid of that. Or a glare. It's a little much. Alrighty, so I had like 40. Oh, 40 pages. No. If you give someone 40 pages, even if they like your work, they're going to get sick of it. Probably. Like, yeah, no, you only need like a few pages. How many sequentials should they be? All of them. Listen to me. This is not just the person that asked, because more than one person here is going to ask this. They should all be sequential pages. There should be no pinups. There should be no covers. There should be 0 pinup. There should be 0 covers. Hopefully that makes sense. You will never ever get comic work coloring covers only. Not if you never colored one before. You will be a freak of nature if you do. They want to see, can you tell a story? Like, can you make, that's why your portfolio should have, like, if you have 10 pages in there, it should be like 3 pages in a row of a story, 3 pages in a row of a story, 3 pages in a row of another story, Every comic book is sequential, but when I say sequential art, I'm not talking about covers. I mean, anybody can color a cover. I mean, it's not that hard. So, and there's still a lot of things you have to think about, obviously, but, it's, you're not going to get any attention. I had a friend of mine, actually, that was wondering, he's like, man, I can't get anybody to email me back, or I emailed so-and-so, and they, it's because he had nothing but like they were all pinups. Like, everything in his portfolio was a pinup. So yeah, it's hard to do that. Okay, so I thought about doing a little bit more on her, and I might do just a little bit, but if it is, it's going to be very, very subtle, because I kind of like how this looks. I'm just going to try maybe a little bounce light over here from the environment. Not a lot. I'm trying to keep this pretty simple, and when you're doing a bounce light like this, it shouldn't. You notice it's not as bright as the blue light is. I mean, the green light coming from the other side. So, because if it was, it would just look like 2 bright lights, and it makes it harder to tell what's going on, right? So I'm just getting in the places that have just like almost pure shadows, because the green is going to overpower the blue. Like if I was in, if I was actually in this, she was standing here and you got this super bright green light, it's going to blow out all that blue. So I'm thinking about staying in these shadows on her, and that's the only place you're going to see that blue. You'll also notice that I'm not just doing a rim light here. There's areas over here where it's kind of from the top and from the sides, and like kind of at all angles. But it's not another rim light in this case. It's a little bit more in front. Because think about it, like in these shadows, like in my room right now. Let's do this. Whoa, shocking. I know, it's my ugly face. So there's only one light in the room. The windows are closed. It's nighttime. And you can see the light reflecting off my forehead right here. And the other side is not in complete darkness. There's still light over there because the light's bouncing off the walls and everywhere else. So here, what I'm thinking about is, where is this light bouncing from? So this is where. Thanks for coming, Chris. Sorry if I missed your goodbye. Oh, I forgot to turn the thing back on. Thank you. Alright, so how many different sequentials should you have? For example, like if the comic has have a comic that's 10 pages long or 6, should it stay around a certain length per story? Yeah, I mean, you just want a handful of, I would say a handful of pages from the same book, like in a row. So they can also see that you're consistent from page to page. Because you color one page and it looks great, and then the same scene and on the next page looks weird, then okay, well now you're not consistent, so that's a problem. So so yeah, actually this green light shouldn't be under there at that angle. Not the way I've been doing it anyway. We're going to put that blue under there and it's going to look cooler. Whoops, a little strong. There we go. Yep, sorry for misunderstanding, but yeah, I wanted to go ahead and get that out there about about sequentials. So many people mess up on that. All right. I think we're getting pretty close here. I really didn't do much with this tree. And like you'll notice, I didn't go to my flats layer for this. Like if I was on my Wacom Mobile Studio Pro or if my Intuos, like I would have to go to make a selection because I couldn't be that precise. That's what I mean when I talk about the precision of this thing. Alright, so I'm not going to do this green near as strong on this side. I don't want it to really draw a bunch of attention. So like that's it, we're done there. I was gonna leave this flat, but well, we can put a little bit of this blue over here. Just enough to make it interesting. Turn that down. Again, this is like, whoops, wrong layer. You guys can probably barely see this, but just throwing enough color around to make it a little bit more interesting than just a flat color. Although flat may have worked too. Who drew this? This cover was drawn by Tim Seeley. I actually asked him today how much he's writing. He was writing Nightwing for a long time. He just started on a Green Lantern book, and he's kind of overseeing Hack Slash and editing Hack Slash and Teeny Howard's writing, and he does a cover about once a month still. So. All right. So now we're on to this bounce light on Pooch. That dog is a bit unsettling. Yeah, he's not pretty. He is not pretty. Alright, so I feel like this is pretty close to being done. Or at least done in Procreate. I might put this into Photoshop and goof around a little bit. I still do my final files there just because it's a lot faster. I've got actions to create all of the CMYK files and all that stuff, you know. So that's a good bit faster in Photoshop. I'm missing a few places here and there that are. Just kind of jumping all over the place now. Seeing if I missed anything. We're going to do some glare on her glasses. That would be cool. Alrighty. Oh, and these little leaf things here. Alright, what else am I missing here? Anytime I watch a stream, there's always that like one part where I'm like, dude, hurry up and color this, you forgot whatever. I know some of you guys are looking at this going, oh, you forgot to do the so-and-so. You know, her dress is supposed to be checkered. I just realized that. I mean, he painted in, he drew in some lines, but we could do better than that probably. This is going to be fun. Alright, just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to turn off everything. We're going to select her clothes. Among other things there. Get under all of it. What is layer 29? I should probably label these sometimes. I have to go and like turn it off and on and see if anything changes. I don't see anything on layer 29, so we're going to put it there. Alright, so get like a darkish gray. We can go a little darker than that. It's going to have a lot of light on top of it. Too dark. I'm just going to do a little bit of a test here and then I'll turn all that stuff back on. Okay, so let's do this. could actually go a little bit darker, huh? I can always adjust it later. But now that I've got the color, we can get going on that. And I can adjust it after. This is why I work on this many layers. Or at least work above my layers most of the time now. Because if I wasn't, this would be a real pain in the rear end to fix. Yeah, I'm definitely going to darken this up a little bit once we're done with that. Okay, so that's all the vertical lines. I'll probably have to go back and clean this up a little bit if I darken it, but that's fine. Let's see. Is it worth getting an iPad Pro instead of Vlad's wearing Adidas shoes? Yeah, I need to paint those stripes on there. Instead of a MacBook Pro for digital illustration, keeping in mind I already have an Intuos Pro. Yeah, Necromux, that's kind of what I was. You said you love the idea of drawing wherever you want. That's my biggest thing I like about this is I usually work in my recliner, you know, and well, now that I've got the iPad, I can work anywhere. I mean, I went to a restaurant today for lunch and was waiting on my food. And I had brought it with me because this thing wasn't going to flat itself. So yeah, I just waited while I waited on my food, put it on the table, and started working. And the waitress said, "That's a gross dog." I said, "Yep." Okay, so we got our blackish anyway. There we go. Alright, so we're going to just clean this up a little bit. If I get the right color. I really should have done this on a mask too, but I forgot. These edges aren't really going to be able to even be seen because of the light hitting it. Really just trying to get the worst and obvious spots here. And I'm about to put this into Photoshop. We're going to do some tweaks on it. So bear with me if you want to stick around for that. I know this is boring. Maybe I can... Let's see. Nope, no questions. Hi from Colombia. Hello. Yeah, now would be a good time for questions. Because this is kind of mindless. Well, I must have jinxed myself when I said that if I wasn't working a lot of layers, I'd have to redo it. I'm having to kind of redo it anyway. For this issue, I'm definitely going to see if I can ask Sealor, the artist on it, to fill those with black or something. He's going to be doing it anyway. Alright. Boy, it looks really different without all that stuff on top of it. Okay, so it's a good time for value check. So I think it works. Kind of got like a triangle shape going on here. Alright, so let's export this into Photoshop. I'm gonna pause this or not pause it, but let's do that just in case. I never know what it's gonna open to in Dropbox. I don't want you guys seeing something you're not supposed to be seeing. Let's see. Have you tried the 10-inch iPad? I haven't. I think for me it would be too small because I'm used to the 13 now, but it's the same tech, like the RAM and all that stuff's like the exact same. So yeah, there's that. This application is pretty cool because it actually copies straight to your desktop, which is kind of cool. It doesn't take very long. It does it over Wi-Fi. And actually, let's move this. Into here. Alright, so let's get into Photoshop, see what this looks like, and finish it off. Alright, that's out of the way. Okay. Sorry if that was loud. I forgot to mute my microphone. Okay. Thanks for stopping by, Arnie. Alright. Let's go as that. Just bear with me just a moment. I will share my screen. Cool. And I have an ultra wide monitor, so I have to put a 1080p sized Photoshop in the window. Let's see, how does that look? That works. All right. Wrong stylus. Let's get the right one. All right, so already I'm thinking that we're going to brighten the highlights a little bit. And the iPad is so I had it probably a little bit too bright, so my highlights aren't as high as I want them to be. So it's pretty easy to fix. All right, so that layer I'm fine with. It's the green that I want a little bit brighter. Oh, let me turn my monitor down. Hello to Just Incredible Studios. If you brighten it too much, it loses the green, you know, so I want to add some saturation. And especially with this green color, here's another lesson for you guys. I'm toggling CMYK preview, which is Control Y. And you see those brights just aren't as bright in CMYK because you can't print that color. So, and that's just it's a problem for Photoshop in general. I mean, any digital, anything really. So I have to do it a different way. All right, let's see. So I'm going to select, let's close some of this in here. Whoops, no, that needs to be, I got too many layers going here. I'm just gonna pull some of these into some folders. Selections, we can get rid of that. Okay, so actually I need the selections. So I'm gonna get the dog, and I just hold down Alt and I'm clicking the layer that'll select the dog. And hold down Shift and Alt together to get the other parts. Make sure I didn't miss anything. With Quick Mask, that's what I do for anyway. I don't really use Quick Mask for anything else. Alright, so now just the selection's still there, but I've hidden the selection so I don't see the marching ants. And I'm going to make a new levels adjustment first. And I'm going to kind of play around with this a little bit. So brighter, highlights, darker, shadows. So I'm bringing the one arrow on the, it's over here in the corner. You guys see that? I'm covering it up. My face is covering it up. There we go. So I'm grabbing the right one and bringing it to the left. And then grabbing the middle one and bringing it to the right a little bit. So I've still got my green, and in RGB it's going to be a lot brighter, but like I said, in CMYK it's going to print okay. Everything else I'm actually pretty happy with how it looks, I think. Let's see. I could actually brighten. This light could be a little bit brighter, that yellow light. That's the ground. Could do the same thing there. I just reused that same levels adjustment on that part too. It's a little intense on the hill, but it'll print okay. Maybe not quite that intense. There we go. This is why, the only reason why I haven't like fully committed to the iPad, because there's still stuff that I know for a fact that my monitor is well calibrated. And I think my iPad was, I forgot to turn the brightness down is what did it. It was too bright, so I was seeing things brighter than they really were. Alright, so I think I want to do kind of a little bit of a like vignette deal. You kids would call it an Instagram filter, probably. Sort of thing. So on top of everything, I'm gonna do, what do I want to do? Just a solid color. No, I don't want to select that. Solid color adjustment layer. I'll play around with this cover or the color of it in a second. Multiply mode. I don't want it affecting the sky at all. So I can just go to the flats, select the sky, make sure I got a 0 on my lasso. Why is that doing that? Weird. I must have accidentally made something the same color. It's kind of a pain, but we can undo that. Oh, that's on my colors layer. There we go. I'm just deselecting the rest of this. Okay, so now it's just the sky. So I'm going to fill that mask on that multiply layer with blue. And actually, I kind of like the way that looks in the background, but it's still probably a little too strong. So let's do this. Again, this is just painting with black. So it just leaves, you can barely see it now. See, if I make it really dark, you can see it. It's really, really subtle. But the edges are a little bit darker than the rest of it. Did you use the texture for the sky? Nope, the texture is already there. There were these clouds. Originally they were black, and I changed the opacity and changed a bunch of other stuff. It's an interesting look. think the sky is not bright enough for my taste. Man, I should have saved that selection a second ago, but I didn't. Okay, let's do this. Let's select all of that. And let's save the selection this time. Skew. Sky. There we go. Is this cover or page for a book? Yes, it's for /Resurrection. Number, I don't know. Number something. All right. That's what's been wrong with this. The sky wasn't bright enough. Or at least to my eye, it wasn't bright enough. Now I've got a really strong outline of the sky. And hopefully Tim doesn't mind that I painted over a lot of his clouds down there. And I like it 1,000 times better now. Okay. I was worried there for a second. Like, what did I do wrong here? Let's see. What do you guys think? Last call before we wrap this up, or if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, I think I like it. I could actually probably go a little bit brighter on, yep, that light. It's not quite the same brush, but it gets the same effect, a little bit stiffer. Again, I want to keep this pretty subtle because they're way off in the background, but I just wanted to brighten that up some. Oh, we got to get it, the most important thing. We have to fix these colors. Put these stripes in here. Adidas for life. Now, there we go. Maybe some of that orange sky in the foreground. No, I know it's not realistic really, but I don't want the I don't want to put any more light in that part, because I'll end up losing contrast somewhere. I could actually do like a really subtle glow behind them. I actually kind of like that idea. They're still a little bit lost. The values on the people in the background are a little too close to the background. So I'm going to select all of this stuff behind them. Somewhere I select, let's see, no, just the house. Boy, my selections are terrible. I must have I must have left some setting off or something. That was not supposed to be off. And Vlad's shoes. Then I lost her. Crap. All these colors are for some reason not selecting right. I'm just going to do it this way. Oh, I messed that up royally. It's supposed to be adding and not subtracting. There we go. I just want everything behind them. You guys will see what I'm doing here in just a second. Alright, I don't want that thing selected. Alright, so now let me just save this selection real quick before I make this layer. Levels. Black. No, white. Okay. So first, going to, let's not do it that way. Let's fill it all with black. I'm kind of doing this backwards the way I usually do it, and so it's kind of annoying. Hold on one second. Like that's too blown out, but it's going to be something like that. Okay. Now, make that selection again, go to my levels adjustment, and then I can paint on the mask to brighten all of that up behind them. But it leaves them intact. See? That's what I was trying to do there. Yeah, you guys have been around all night. Thank you for coming. All everybody that's bailing out tonight. Thank you. Let's see. Did I answered that one? I answered that one. Where's the best to go if you want to start coloring? You're talking about wanting to start learning coloring? Or to get to get jobs. Okay, to get jobs. There's not really a formula. I mean, I started hooked up with some guys just in like a Facebook group that were into comics and doing indie comics and stuff, and started working on stuff with them, and then it kind of kept growing and growing until got to where it is now. You try to build it up, start small. You don't want to, your first project shouldn't be like an 84-page graphic novel. I would say find some guys and make like a 4-page story, or there's Facebook groups, there's subreddits, there's Twitter. I mean, Twitter and Facebook were really helpful for me. I'm going to try this. I might not keep it, but I want to try it. This is just kind of a glow generally in the background. It's pretty subtle. All right, so I'm thinking I want to brighten this green up just a little bit on her face. We're almost done here, though. Because I know this green is just not going to want to print. There, I'm happy with that. Yeah, we're on the same page about her face. Like, it just, that green is completely almost gone. Kind of on her hair, could use it too. And like every fourth time I try to resize the brush in Photoshop, it freezes Photoshop. And that is really fun. Really fun. I'm already missing the iPad. Just on this little bit of rendering here. Much better, much better. Alright, so I guess I'm going to wrap this up. This has been a long stream, but almost 2.5 hours. So thank you all for coming. This has been a lot of fun. And if you're not familiar with me or the channel, there's like 150, 160 coloring tutorials on YouTube. There's 20 hours of tutorials in my coloring courses at coloringcomics.com. There's 2 courses, but like 10 hours each. There's a lot of students in here tonight. I know that if they're in here, they might tell you if it's any good or not. But yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Hopefully we can do this again soon. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.